what's up YouTube? I'm back again. We're gonna look at another video of what is it? I'm brain fart. Anyways, welcome to my channel, Martial Arts Reacts to. I'm looking at this cartoonish about Bruce Lee, the infograph show. We got dive in.
1960 and San Francisco's.
Let's go back a little bit.
It's early 1960 and San Francisco's Chinatown is the place to be if you're a young martial artist looking to prove yourself in this world. Most of the martial arts masters, however, are reluctant.
However, Bruce Lee didn't go into San Francisco until late 50s. I think actually he left China in 1958. He was about 18, so to be 18, he was 18 when he left. Because he supposedly got a lot of trouble in China, and he parked up to go to the, so it was. I mean, I guess that's close enough to be the early 60s, but this, I like to have when you do a factory, I would like to have real facts and be able to give you a better time frame than 1960s.
If not completely opposed to teaching Westerners what.
So I'm guessing this is supposed to be Bruce Lee. Bruce never wore a gi. In fact, he didn't have a black belt. That's for sure. So Bruce never wear a doki, for one. He will have the Chinese suit uniforms. It'll be all black and they'll have little buttons. The buttons are like rectangular shape, or not rectangle, but I want to say more of a was not cynical, so a circular shape. It's more of a circular shape than anything. It's if anybody watched Into the Dragon, you'll see what the type of outfits he wore. He didn't wear a doki or a karate uniform. And you see it in this I mean obviously this cartoon figure is supposed to be Bruce, and that's their interpretation on this, but having him in the gi is completely wrong, for sure. Let's continue.
What they see as a uniquely Asian art. Bruce Lee disagrees and happily takes on any apprentice who can prove himself. Wong Jack Man is among the greatest masters of his time.
Now, Wong Jack Man he's a master in different martial arts. Bruce been a again, they won't be in, if they were to fight in their traditional uniforms, it won't be a doki. Okay, just one fact, which I get, and I get it again. They are showing they both martial artists, and it's again, if you go, if that kung fu wasn't karate, man. I mean, you know, saying is, you know, any part of Chinese martial arts. They had a different uniforms than Japanese would.
And he takes offense at his willingness to take on non-Asian students. Others, however, claim that Lee, new in town, has bragged loudly and constantly about being the greatest martial artist in the world. That bragging has worn on.
I don't think that was the case. A lot of people who knew Bruce didn't really say he bragged. I think the initial matter of that, because a lot of martial arts people, a lot of Chinese people that live in Chinatown, during the time that Bruce was teaching, and they found out that because it's a small town that he lived in, it was, people knew. They probably knew him as Jufan, his Chinese name, right? I don't know if they will. I don't know if they ever call him Bruce Lee, as we know him in America. But I think it was because of Bruce. They didn't want Bruce Lee teaching the Chinese secrets. Like, they didn't. So anybody that was foreign, the foreigners, like like me, they the thing is, Bruce fought a lot with racism. His own kind didn't accept him because he wasn't full Chinese, because he was mixed with a quarter. Just to have a quarter, this teeny tiny bit of German made Bruce as a black sheep in China. He's a black sheep, Chinese black sheep. Then he came to America, and he came in a time period where racism was really big. You had just now at a time where blacks and whites can unite together. This is a time, one the time Martin Luther King, era, and Bruce had to deal with his, racism, fighting against the Japanese, even one of the movies, The Big Boss. You see Bruce kicking the sign and breaking the sign of it when it said, "No dogs, no Chinese, and no dogs allowed." And it was discrimination against Japanese was discriminating against Chinese men. So and he relates to so he a lot of movies he did relate with relation, related to what he grew up in China, right? Although he lived in Canton, he was known as Cantonese. His films that he did was in Mandarin, and so you gotta keep in mind, Bruce Lee and to this day, people will he still have naysayers. So this is so I don't know how arrogant he was. Uh, I'm sure he can be arrogant. He was a young guy. But the time he got into you know United States, he was only 18 years old kid, right? By the time he went he didn't before he teach martial arts he would teach cha-cha lessons and then move on from there to teach Chan or martial arts. And let's continue on. I can
Wong's
tell I could
nerves,
go on and
and
on.
now he's challenged Lee to a fight in Lee's own studio. Inside Lee's studio, a small assembly of people are gathered to watch a fight that will very quickly become...
One of them was his wife, Linda Lee. I was you see there's three guys. I don't really know. I'm talking about it to mine. No names. According to him, his uncle was one of the guys that was there. So, he knows more of this what happened than most people would do. So I can't again name drop unless he's giving me permission to give that information away. I'll till then I'll be a video for another time if I could get that permission. Probably not because I know the man. He's very secretive and very hush hush about everything he does in his life. So anyway, let's continue.
Become the stuff of legends. The doors are barred to the public. This is a private grudge match, and only one man can be victorious. What happens next will leave fans of Bruce Lee and martial arts in general searching for the truth for decades. In one account of the fight, Lee destroyed Wong Jack Man within minutes,
Now, that's one of the least parts out of the story, where he was a top. And you'll see it Dragon, the visual story where Jason Scott Lee plays the role of Bruce Lee, and you'll see him and one gentleman fighting together, and it made people believe that he got kicked in the back and injured his back in the movie, and that's not what happened. He hurt his back during Good Mornings, and so he did had a back injury, but once it caused a kick to the back.
pounding Wong to the ground and getting 2 confirmations that Wong surrendered before ending the fight. In another account, Wong, who realized that Lee's pride would never let him accept defeat unless he was killed outright in the fight, was
and that was Wong Jungman's his because that's from what I understood, that's Wong Jackman's his side of the story. So there's 2 sides of the story, and one of them is gonna be the truth of it all. Basically, Wong Jackman is saying Bruce is too arrogant to that. To believe that he would lose and he would die. So Von Jackman said, whatever, you're not worth it. If that was the truth, though, because according to to my resources, that Bruce, they made the Chinese triads or whatever, I don't know who was all involved with this, wanted to stop Bruce from teaching the foreigners, the Americans, Chinese martial arts, and that's that's the idea that's where the Mark Jumpman came put in play. And they hired him to stop Bruce from teaching non-Chinese, right? And uh, if Bruce lost the fight, it was it was said that he would have to stop teaching. Period. He can't open another school. He that in fact that Evans thought he didn't knew enough because he was a certified teacher. At the point he did Yip Man didn't want to certify Bruce because he was full. It would be because it was frowned upon for somebody who's not full blood Chinese to know everything, to know all the secrets that Chinese has, right? So he was able to learn as much as Yip Man allowed him to learn in Wing Chun, and so Bruce had to prove himself that he was worthy enough to teach these people, teach anybody he wants, and I want to say I believe that he won the fight, that he beat Wang Jiamin, because if he didn't win the fight, he won't be able to do what he wanted to do, to teach, to bring the Chinese culture to Americans. Show them, open up Chinese Americans' eyes that we're not these goofy characters that you see in the movies. Showing them the real deal, showing them the beauty of when it in the when it, so after the fight, Bruce at, he was at this point he was 24. That was 1964. 1964, 1965, give or take. Bruce developed went and on to develop Jeet Kune Do, Jufeng, the philosophy, using that as a philosophy, and developing Junfang Kung Fu, which is the fighting method, Bruce Lee fighting method. Um, because he studied philosophy and he wanted to use philosophy in his fighting method, Junfang Kung Fu, and have the concept of intercepting the fist or foot, whatever it is, and using his knowledge of philosophy he put into his style of fighting as well. So he didn't. In fact, he developed JKT because he felt like the fight between him and Wang Jiamin took too long. It lasted, according to Shannon, Landon Lee, 7 minutes. According to Wang Jiamin, it was like 30-minute fight. I don't know. But I want to say, Bruce won. Again, I believe the fight was just to stop Bruce from teaching Americans. So now you are able to, me, you, and everybody else. In fact, I want to say Ed Parker was the first white man that was able to go to Japan and learn this secret stuff. Learn, and if it, I think it was the first one in learning the mock. Um, anyways, continue on the
Forced to
video.
fight defensively in order to avoid committing murder. The fight then ended in something resembling a draw. In yet another account, Wong and Lee were almost evenly matched, and the fight turned into a grindfest of blows and counterblows, lasting nearly a half hour before both combatants were forced to admit a truce. This fight, along with Lee's legendary exploits on film, have raised a daunting specter for fans of the great martial artist in the form of one single question. Was Bruce Lee really as great a fighter as he was a teacher? The answer may not be so easy to ascertain, given that Lee did not have very many fights on the public record. Unfortunately, Lee existed 20 years before the establishment.
Now he has a amateur boxing record. You can find it. You can Google it. You can see it. I don't. Again, don't hold me accountable to say. I mean, just it's something I've found and researched, and it's also documented in Shannon Lee's magazines that she had put out. So I'm not gonna call her a liar. That's not my kind of thing. You know what I mean? People still, have hard. It's hard for them to believe. Took them this long to figure out. Wing Chun is not that great. Going against somebody. Because the stories before Wang Chungmin that he fought in China, and the stories like the reason why he went to America because he got in trouble with the triads, or he hit the mayor's son and he beat him up. You gotta think about it. Wing Chun is not the only style there, right? Because just because you're a black belt in this particular Chinese style, let's say you're mastering Wing Chun, you beat somebody and Wushu, you might be a better. You might be just a better fighter, because another master Wushu can beat that same master Wing Chun. I mean, because that Wushu master was a better fighter. The move he did was better. So just because that one Wing Chun guy beat that one Wushu master, and another Wushu master fought that same Wing Chun master, and Wing Chun master lost to that one, it's not gonna. It's not exactly to say, hey, this guy is better than him. The Wushu is better than Wing Chun. Wing Chun is better than Wushu. So it's whatever style of kung fu you going against another style. It's just and when you're fighting, in other words, you're putting your style to the test. In other words, and if you win, you'll win. If only one person can win the fight. It's 50-50 in any fight that happens. Just remember that.
Of mixed martial arts as a sport, and at the time there existed few actual martial arts tournaments. Of those that did exist, they would not have appealed to Lee, nor would they have been representative of his fighting prowess even if they did. These point tournaments, such as those that Chuck Norris participated in,
Bruce was not absolutely, he wasn't a big fan of point karate or point tournaments. I think if UFC was in that time, maybe it would be a better. He would like that a little bit because there's more full contact especially in the 1993, where people can do ground shots. A lot of things in there was legal, and when it came out in 1993.
Awarded combatants points for blows that landed on what were perceived to be critical areas. It didn't matter if the blow would realistically have caused much damage or not. Often the fighters barely even touched each other, giving each punch and kick just enough power to land on the opponent and not much more. Famous American kickboxer Joe Louis once commented that he trained extensively on his midsection so that he could absorb tremendous punishment. Yet in a point tournament, if an opponent landed a blow there, he'd be awarded a
Yo, like my bike? Want to see something cooler?
That's
What's
not
inside
bike.
that building? Was able to help me.
point for delivering a killing blow. Clearly, a point tournament would not have appealed to a fighter such as Lee, as they in no way represented the true power, endurance, and capability to take punishment that a real martial artist needed to win a fight. Detractors of Lee, though, point at his lack of actual fights as proof that he was not a good fighter, and yet this theory itself falls a bit flat on its face when looked at logically. Firstly, Lee may not have had many recorded fights, but he had plenty of incredible feats of strength publicly recorded and verified. Famously, he once sent a man many pounds heavier than himself flying backwards from a 6-inch punch. That man, who had volunteered for the stunt and even worn chest padding, and
6-inch punch. It was not a 6-inch punch, my guy. It's a 1-inch punch that he demonstrated, not a 6-inch, my guy.
ended up having serious chest bruising regardless of his safety gear. Simply put, Lee's power was so immense, as it is with any martial arts master, that he could not have competed in a fight without threatening the life of the man he fought. Having grown up before the establishing of an MMA sport, Lee's training was focused entirely on martial arts as a tool to devastate an opponent, not a tool to win a martial arts match. Simply put, Lee did not train or practice his martial arts so that he could safely defeat an opponent in the ring, the way that modern MMA fighters do. Lee trained in martial arts to use them as a self-defense tool, and every effort to further refining and evolving his martial arts techniques was dedicated to achieving victory faster by delivering ever more punishing and devastating blows. Evidence of this lies in Lee's well-publicized fascination and study of human anatomy. Lee trained himself in the study of the body and its physical processes just as rigorously as he did in his martial arts, and he did so with only one goal in mind: to discover how to hit on the human body so as to cause the maximum amount of damage. For Lee, martial arts was first and foremost a tool to kill, though one he adapted to entertain audiences on screen. Inviting Lee to fight in a standard MMA match would have been no different than using a real gun in a paintball match, and today martial artists who compete in MMA events have the knowledge to deliver devastating and crippling blows, but purposefully train themselves to still abide by the rules of the tournament. One point against Lee's fighting prowess in an actual street fight was the simple fact that he definitely didn't have the experience of a modern.
So they got him in the like he's shortlist, and he got the game of death pants on. Okay. And boxing gloves.
In taking a great deal of punishment. MMA fighters train their minds and bodies to survive grueling round after round in the ring, absorbing an incredible amount of punishment. Again, this is because the fighters are prohibited from using techniques such as those that Bruce Lee trained in daily, techniques which could kill or incapacitate an enemy. If modern MMA allowed the same lethal fighting style that Lee mastered, then today's matches would be a great deal shorter and a great deal more fatal. On this point, it is true that Lee was not as experienced as a modern MMA fighter in absorbing punishment for long amounts of time. Yet this point really only hints at the fact that Lee may not have been a great modern martial arts fighter, or competitive martial arts fighter, as it forces Lee to fight with modern MMA rules that completely undercut Lee's strategy of securing victory as quickly as possible by delivering as brutally devastating blows as possible. Given Lee's incredible ability to innovate and adapt his own fighting style, though, nobody seriously doubts that Lee could have become a modern champion if he had lived today and trained to fight in today's MMA tournaments. Lee very famously adapted his personal style after his fight with Wong Jack Man, evolving an even deadlier form of Jeet Kune Do within months of his match. He also very quickly learned how to become a grappler after seeing the effectiveness of the technique for himself, and adapted it as well.
Yeah, it was Gino Bell was just one of who taught him some grappling, and he did it in corporate in Game of Death.
into his fighting repertoire. There is little doubt that Lee could have quickly learned the rules of modern MMA and adapted his fighting style accordingly. Another point against Lee that detractors of his fighting ability tout is the fact that he was an actor, as if somehow that made it impossible that Lee was also a genuine martial artist, which he very much was. While making his living as a film actor and wowing audiences on the screen, his physical prowess was very well documented and verified. On the set of The Green Hornet, for example, he was forced to slow down his movements so the camera could actually catch them. And even then, he was shot at a much higher frame rate than normal to help capture a non-blurry image. Careful analysis with the aid of computers of his performance across various films shows that Lee was able to deliver devastating kicks in less than half a second, at times clocking in as many as 3 or 4 kicks within a second and a half. Then there is of course his famous display of the 1-inch punch, where he's documented shattering boards and knocking men larger than himself off their feet. All of this evidence points to a man whose body was so finely tuned that there can be little doubt that Lee's kicks and punches would have been absolutely devastating if delivered against an opponent in a real fight. But what about technique? After all, it doesn't matter how fast you are or how hard you hit if you can't actually land a hit in the first place. Well, again, there's little documented evidence of Lee though there are several pieces of footage from Lee sparring with some of his more advanced students. In these clips, Lee and his student are both wearing heavy protective gear and very clearly limiting their attacks and counterattacks so as not to cause mortal injury. Some detractors of these videos claim that the sparring
so the fight, the match that they're talking about, where he's sparring from, and him and Taki was doing Chisao, and he sweep Taki from there. And you could if you once you master Chisao for well, you can definitely be able to beat your opponent, because it's a good sensitivity trail. So you are doing this motion here, and you can all you do is all you have to do as soon as that guy moves the hand or whatever of the evidence they are trying to say that you can come in, you could really feel the disconnection and reconnecting of during Chisao. So yeah, it's possible to do it blindfold once you got the sensitivity drill and you master that to the highest extent you get. So yeah, it's possible.
Were staged to make Lee look better than he really was, and yet carefully watching these matches show that Lee's students managed to land numerous and very realistic blows on Lee throughout the matches. What the footage also shows, however, is Lee's incredible adaptability, speed, intelligence, and power. Lee's movements are completely economical, and even when his students managed to land a blow, Lee used the opportunity to launch a far more devastating counterattack, which often knocked the student off his feet. This proves that Lee was well aware that not every blow could be blocked or dodged, and that in a real fight he may have to simply absorb a blow in order to deliver a winning counterattack. It's clear that Lee understood the grim reality of a real fight. Sometimes you gotta take some punishment so you can win, and this speaks against the point raised by detractors that Lee couldn't have been a real fighter. In one example, a student launches a side kick, which Lee accepts with his midsection, allowing him to in turn deliver a powerful jab to the head, which sends the student to the mat. In another, a student lands a roundhouse kick to Lee's chest, which he once again takes and absorbs the blow by bracing his left leg against it. Then Lee launches a rapid right jab, which causes his student to duck his head straight into a waiting left knee. Clearly, Lee knew that to win a fight, sometimes you had to take a blow or two, and even these sparring matches showed Lee's ability to take blows and counterattack with winning strikes. Then there's the fact that many of the world's greatest martial artists and professional boxers all attested to Lee's ability. Mike Tyson, Mike Stone, and Joe Louis all agreed that Lee was one of the strongest, fastest martial arts practitioners they had ever met, and all believed that Lee could have easily fought and won matches against even larger opponents. It's true, though, that Lee's fights were extremely rare and poorly documented.
Why is
Lee's
the
training regimen, which included
Wang Zhang so tiny looking? Usually, the wooded dummy like this is gonna be head level, not that short. What is he trying to find, a midget or a small person? Sorry, my bad. It's a habit. I'm sorry.
things such as sparring was
excuse
not.
me.
Each day, Lee would launch hundreds of punches against a metal dummy, which he did so to toughen his fists up. That kind of intense training speaks for itself in many ways. In the end, the world will never truly know if Lee was a great fighter as he was an innovator and teacher of martial arts. All the evidence
Once
though
Lee
points
does,
to a man whose
he looks
skills
so
were
fat in
finely
that.
honed, knowledge of human
Of
anatomy
course, you
so
know, looking
intensive, and
too
training
skinny on
techniques so
cartoon.
brutal that there existed no true way of measuring his skill as a fighter outside of a fight that ended in death. A fighter such as Lee could never have competed in any tournament to measure his skills, which is why he never bothered to while he was alive. Sadly, the only way to prove Lee's fighting prowess would have been to absolve him of all liability and remove all rules and regulations that would constrain Lee's martial arts technique. Go watch The Superhuman Monk Who Can't Get Hurt. As always, don't forget to like,
So that was okay. I mean, there's some things they got wrong about Bruce. But yeah, he did train really hard. I mean, I'm not surprised that he trained with a middle with a dummy, but um, he was really advanced as well. Not just was his martial arts skill level, but he was also advanced in training level, the training tools that he did as well. So he had I believe he had a wooden dummy where it had like almost like a shape of a head, and the spring it was spring back to let him know that he had a snap. His punch was snapping as he throw him. He did a lot of that to make sure everything he throws, he kicks, punches, will snap. So he wanted as realistic. When you punch the head, it will record back. I mean, it's obviously they're gonna go back and forth like this, but it will record back. I think it wasn't. It was the spring was just go back. It didn't go. It was a film thing like this, where you go back and forth. But it was he made it trying to realistic, where you just go back and retract as realistic as you could. So he was when he punched the head and then goes back, he knows that he had a lot of snap. But anyways, if you like this kind of content, subscribe, do your thing. I'm out. Bye. And